Okay, so as I told you from the starting, so the Bayesian, the first thing which you're going to read today is Bayesian network. So what Bayesian network works on? It works on the Bayesian theorem. As I said in the starting, the Bayesian theorem's formula is, which is the probability of that hypothesis when any event D occurred will be equal to the probability of that event D occurred when the hypothesis happened into the probability of that hypothesis divided probability of the density. Probability of that event, sorry, not density. So that is Bayes theorem. So now how to get to know like how exactly Bayes theorem works. So in machine learning, the Bayes theorem is working on the naive Bayes method. As the name suggests, naive Bayes is really old and we don't use it that much because it's really computational heavy. But just to let you know how it works. So we have 14 rows having 4 features, which is outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind. And there we have our output value, which is Platonist, which is either yes or no. Now, using this 14 columns, we have to find out if the outlook is sunny, temperature is cool, humidity is high, and the wind is strong. What will be the answer of Platonist? Now, as I told you, nearby is the nearby gives you the probability. So it will give you a probability of what is the probability of if you have this particular tuple, then what will the probability of it being Platonist as yes, and what will be the probability of it being Platonist as no? It's not going to tell you like it is Platonist or Platonist. It will give you a probability. So there can be chance that it can give 50-50, but it doesn't, like generally doesn't give 50-50. There will be like 45-55 or 70-30. Something will happen. So what exactly we do is, first we have to find out the probability of the target function. So we have to find out the Platonist yes probability and Platonist no probability. So out of 14 days which we have in our training data set, as you can see, 9 are yes and 5 are no. If you count from here, you will find out of 14, 9 are yes and 5 are no. So we found out the probability of Platonist of yes is 9 by 14 and the probability of Platonist as no is 5 by 14. Okay, now we have to exactly evaluate for each and every feature which is given for the question, which is outlook sunny, temperature cool, humidity high, and wind strong. Now, how? First, we'll take outlook sunny. As you can see, the first one is wind strong. Okay, fine. Anything. The first one is wind strong. Now, we have to find any. What happened, bro? Sarvesh, can you hear me? It's fine. So, we have to find for wind strong. So now you can see wind strong is the hypothesis. Platonist yes and Platonist no is the event that happened or the incident that happened. Like we are trying to find the probability of what is the probability of the wind being strong when the Platonist is yes. And we are trying to find the probability of wind being strong when the Platonist is no. Like what is the if we just told that okay we can Platonist. So what is the probability of the wind being strong? Or we would have informed that we cannot play the tennis. So what is the probability of that particular time in that particular incident? What is the probability of the wind being strong? So we have to try to find out that. So play tennis is yes. So that is the total incident we have. Play tennis yes. It means out of 9 we have. Like the whole chart, we have only 9 as play tennis yes. So we give by 9. Now in out of all 9 columns, in out of all 9 rows in which play tennis is yes, how many number of times there is wind is equal to strong? So we have to find out for how many number of rows the wind is strong and the play tennis is yes. We found out it's 3. So the probability of the wind being strong and the play tennis yes is 3 by 9. Now we find out for how many columns the wind being strong and the play tennis is no. So we found out. Now we can see that the total of play tennis is no is equal to 5. That's why we have dividing it by 5. Now probability of the wind being strong as play tennis is equal to no. So we have to find out how many number of times in this particular 14 rows, how many number of times the wind is strong and the play tennis is no. We found out it's 3. So it's 3 by 5. Similarly, we have to do the same thing for each and every one. Wind being strong is done. For Platinus, yes, and Platinus, no. As what? Wind being strong is done. Now we have to find for humidity high. We have to find for humidity is equal to high. The same thing we are going to do as we did in wind strong. We have to find out. Now I have to find how many columns, like how many discrete values are there in humidity. It's high, normal. So we have to find out humidity high. We have to find humidity high when the Platinus is yes, and we have to find humidity is high when the Platinus is no. Similarly, we have to find out for temperature. Again, we have to find out temperature cool when the Platinus is yes, temperature cool when the Platinus is no. We'll find a number. Now, what are we going to do? Outlook, sunny, overcast, rain. And what we have to find out? Sunny. Now, we have to find out exactly what? When the outlook is sunny and the Platinus is yes, and the outlook is sunny when the Platinus is no. So for each and every each and every feature, like outlook sunny, temperature cool, humidity high, and wind strong, we found out a particular number. Like for this one, you found out a particular number when the Platinus is yes and when the Platinus is no. Now we have to find out what is the probability, conditional probability of if we have this particular column, if we have this particular thing, what is the probability of it being a true value, like Platinus is equal to yes. So what we do is, first we take P of yes. P of yes stands for total number of Platinus is equal to yes. P of yes stands for place total number of Platinus yes, which will be 9 by 14. Now we find out the term sunny is to yes. As we find out wind strong is equal to yes. When we found out what all things, wind strong, humidity high, temperature cool, and outlook sunny, we'll find out for what particular probability it was sunny when we are allowed to play tennis. What is the probability of it being cool when we are allowed to play tennis? What is the probability of it being high? Like what is a high? Humidity is high when we are allowed to play tennis. And what is the probability of the wind being strong when we are allowed to play tennis? So we'll try, we'll find all those terms. As you can see, the similar thing. The way we found out this, wind is strong, play tennis is, this is the same number which you're going to put here. Now, this is the answer that you'll get. What will be the probability of this particular term for giving an output of play tennis? Yes. And now, what will the output of, like, what will be the probability of it being giving a no? It's a conditional probability. It's not going to give you a proper percentage number. Now, P of no. How do you find it? We'll find first a P of no, which is play of play tennis no. Now we'll go for the same thing again. What is the probability of it being sunny when we are not allowed to play tennis? What is the okay. What is the probability of it being cool when you are not allowed to play tennis? What is the probability of it? What is that? Humidity is equal to high when we are not allowed to play tennis. What is the probability of wind being strong when we are not allowed to play tennis? We'll get all the four numbers, and then for yes, we just multiply each and every number, and we'll get a resultant number. We'll multiply with this particular all the numbers, and we'll get a resultant number. As you can see, the one which will be bigger, will be the answer. As you can see, for yes, what we found out, it's 0.053, and for no, you found it's 0.206. So it's clearly visible that 0.026 is bigger than 0.053. So naive Bayes is telling, like what naive Bayes machine learning model is telling, that if you have this particular row, it's most probably going to give you a play tennis is equal to no answer. And how to find out what percentage, like, because these are conditional probability, they're not telling exact probability, like what is 75% yes and 90% no. We have to get the balance now. So how to get the exact 75%, like how to get the exact probability is to find the probability of no. We take the number of no divided by number of conditional probability of no plus conditional probability of yes. So it gives you 0.795. It means 79.5. If you give this particular row, which is this particular row, there's 79.5% that it will be a play tennis is equal to no. So if it's 79.5% no, it's simply gonna be like 20.5% yes. So as you can see, this is particular naive Bayes. So this particular thing that we did here is known as normalization. Getting all this condition probability to give a normal distribution, like from 0 to 100, we just club it together. Normalization just gets number from 0 to 1. So that's what we did. To get the probability of no, we took the condition probability of no divided by condition probability of no plus condition probability of yes. If we would have done the same thing, like we would have taken this number, what is the what is the basic probability of it being a yes? If we would have put 0.053 divided by 0.026, 0.206 plus 0.053, we would have got 20.0. We would have got 0.205. It means 20.5%. So you can do any other thing. So this is how your naive Bayes works. So it's a really simple technique. It's not a really hard technique to understand. Also, the maths behind this is really simple. Now we'll go on and see how it's gonna be in the coding. In coding. Let me find out. So again, we're back to the coding thing. Now, as I said, NumPy and Pandas always gonna be there. We use Seaborn to show some graphs, but I don't think we're showing any graph because it doesn't make any graph. This is like one of my habit to just write it here. Now, import access 3D is also removed because I don't want to show you these things right now because they can just go skip off your head. So we're going to be completely basic because you can see the code for Bayesian network is really simple. As you can see, it's over like here only. Now, what we're using, the dataset that we are using right now is the Iris dataset. It's a preloaded dataset. It's a preloaded dataset in the sklearn library. Like if you'll go to the sklearn datasets, you'll find so many predefined libraries. They're like 20 newsgroup, Iris. They're like one or two more. So we're going to directly use the load Iris. So to get the load Iris dataset, what we do is we make a object, we make a variable, and we call this function load Iris. That's a predefined function that it gives you the whole data. So when we see the Iris, what Iris has, so Iris doesn't exactly give you a data frame. As you'll find out in most of the data sets, when you'll call the data predefined, like pre-installed data sets, it's not going to give you a data frame. It's going to give you an array. Sorry, it's going to give you a dictionary, which have two or three keys, which is data, target, the target names, like what are the column names, and some like what information about itself, like what it is, from where you got, from where it has been downloaded or something, because they have to refer them, like from there they have copied the data. Ouch. So we displayed the Iris dataset. So we have the data which is in an array. We have so many numbers right here, like what all numbers. Okay, first of all, we can't understand what the numbers are. We'll go down, we'll find the target. Okay, we have the target, some numbers. Now we'll find the target names. What are the target names it is? So the target name stands for what all things that the array has. Sorry, the target name gives you like what all target the, let it be, what all target you have. So Iris dataset gives what it has. It has 4 features, which is sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. I guess I've told you about this Iris dataset. It's a really famous dataset. So you have 4 features, which is sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. So as you can see, all the arrays which have 4 values, which will be sepal length, sepal width, petal width, petal width. On the basis of that, the target gives you, on the basis of that whole data, you will be getting a target value, which is 0, 1, or 2, which is in between either Setosa, versicolor, or Virginica. So as you can see, 0, 1, or 2. So 0 is Setosa, versicolor is 1, 2 is Virginica. And one thing I told you, as I said you one example in k-fold cross validations, that what I told you in k-fold cross validation is we just find one really small fold and we try to test it on that. That's how we do the validation. And I told you there's one small shortcoming of k-fold cross validation is, so there can be a chance that they like one particular one fold, they can be similar kind of data. This is the exact example. Like you can see, if we'll make a fold of 5. You can see if we'll take the first 5 answers, it's always 0. When it will go to the end, the first we'll take the 5 folds, the fold of size 5, you'll only get 2. So that's what the one of the shortcomings of k-fold, and that's why what we use is stratified k-fold cross validation, that we, for each and every fold, we jumble up. We make sure that we have equal number of all the target values that we have. So if it's k-fold is equal to 5, the model will try to have uh, 2 of output 0, 2 of output 1, and 2 of 1 of output 2, or any of the other way around. So that's what cross-validation, k-fold cross-validation's example is. I just saw this thing, so I thought of explaining that thing also. So got to know. So out of all these things that you can see here, the only thing that will be useful is the data key, the target key, the target name key, and the feature name key. Now we'll make a data frame. How to make a data frame? We pass the data, the whole data, iris.data. Okay, iris dot, the name that you'll give, either it's going to be data, data frame, feature frame, data, target frame, or feature frame. It's going to give you the exact result. So we give iris.data, so it's going to give you the whole data. And for the columns, we are giving iris.features name, and the features name are sepal in, sepal with, petal in, then petal with. Now we saved the whole data to the DF. Now we showed the DF. We can see we have 150 rows, and the columns are sepal in, sepal with, petal in, then petal with. Now we can see iris target. Iris target is an array of either 0, 1, or 2. It will be corresponding. The answer will be corresponding to each and every one. Like first 0 stand is for this one, the second 0 is for this one. So it will be corresponding, like respective. Okay. Now what we do? We do the train test split. How are you going to do the train test split? As I said, we use the sklearn model selection file, and we import a train test split function. Now train test split will give what? It will give you 4 values: xtrain, xtest, ytrain, and ytest. Okay, and what all you have to give in train test split? We have to give the whole data set. We have to give the target function, like the target, and this is the particular target, the answers that you have, and the train size is 0.7. It means training size will be 70% and testing size will be 30%. Now okay, so this thing is done. Now we see the train shape. It's going to be 105. Let it be. Now understood, we got xtrain, xtest, ytrain, and ytest done. Now from sklearn.nearby, now skl from for the whole last week we are using only one library, which is sklearn.linear model. This time we are using sklearn.naibias. So from sklearn.naibias we imported the Gaussian NB. Now there are like 3 naibias, which is Gaussian NB, multinomial NB, and Bernoulli NB. Gaussian NB is basically like you can use any or either of the 3 in any of the places, but there are like 1 or 2 tweaks that you can do if the answer is categorical value. If most of the time the answer will be in a like either 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, or a binary one only, 0 or 1. That time we use the Gaussian function, like the Gaussian naibias, which the what the not the prerequisite. I'll say that it has an assumption. It assumes that the data that you're providing is normally distributed. That's what Gaussian NB is. But imagine you have a data which gives you a continuous value, kind of a continuous value. That time we go for either the multinomial naive Bayes or the Bernoulli naive Bayes. So these are the 2 things. And even in that particular Bernoulli and multinomial, if your whole data is completely like continuous, we most of the time go for Bernoulli. And if it's like it is continuous, like in Gaussian, we have categorical max to max 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fine enough. If it's going more than that, like you have an output of 0 to 8 or output of 0 to 10, then we go for multinomial. We have an output from 0 to 100, we'll go for Bernoulli. So they're like small tweaks. And one thing is you can use each of them like here and there. Like it's not really necessary that you have to use Gaussian here only. If I'll write here in Bernoulli, or if I'll write here in multinomial, it's going to work the same. Not exactly the same. The model accuracy can go can either increase or decrease. So this time we're using the Gaussian NB. Now, how we do this and how to do this thing? Even if it's a linear model or a probabilistic model, we do the exact same thing. We make an object of the Gaussian NB, which is GNB. We use the dot fit function, GNB dot fit. We provide the X train and the Y train. Now, the model has been trained using the training data that we provided. Now, GNB dot score will give you the accuracy of that particular GNB score will give you the accuracy of that particular model. Now we can see that the model that we trained is 94% accurate. So as you can see, like it's 94% accurate. It's why it's so accurate only because the model that we had is only 150 rows. It's not a very big data set. That's why it's 94% accurate. And most of the time, nearby's are accurate because they are not clustering stuff. They are like trying to find the probability. So they are like, even if they're 51, like even if they'll give you the 51%, like this thing's gonna happen, it generally tends towards the right answer. So the output of nearby is generally a higher value. If you're finding a nearby problem, like nearby, you're making a nearby model and you're finding this probability in between 60 to 70, it means there's a huge problem in the data set itself, because nearby generally gives you a really high accuracy score. So this is what naive Bayes is, and I guess you understood everything. Now, before ending this class, I would like to tell all of you, just to let you know, there's one Oracle certification course which is going on, and it's gonna be there till 15th of May. I forgot to forward you the link in the group. I'll do it today or tomorrow. So there are like 6 particular career paths, not in career paths, like what can you say, study paths. Either it's going to be Oracle Cloud Training or Oracle Database or Oracle Architecture or something like that. So there are like 6 of them. You can study each and every course path free of cost. You can give the exam free of cost. They'll give you a proper Oracle certification free of cost. So it's going to be there till only 15th of May. After that, you have to pay a whole lot of money to get Oracle certification, because like certification of big companies like Google, Microsoft, Oracle and all, it's going to be really costly. Like if you have to get the Oracle, like Google certification for cloud, you have to pay like $300. For Microsoft and also you have to pay like $300. For Salesforce, you have to like, for Salesforce, I guess you have $400 or $500. So this one is for now free of cost. It's gonna be there till 15th of May because of this COVID-19. They opened it for everyone, so you can give the exam. You can study. You can give the exam. You have to qualify the exam to get the certificate. By the way, there's a proper like minimum percentage. I guess it's 65%. So till 65%, if you'll get over 65%, you'll get the certification on your name for Oracle. So I'll suggest each and every one of you to at least take one of them and make use of it, because as I told you, after 15th of May, the course material will be costly, and even that, if you buy the course material, you study for it, again you have to get the exam. For that you also have to pay some money, which will be really hefty for you. So it's better that you should go for this particular, you should utilize this particular time and get at least one or two, at least one Oracle certification. And I'll suggest you, do not try to do all 6 of them at once. It's not possible. At least just find out which one will be good for you, or which one you have idea of, which one in which one you have interest in. Go for that and study properly and give the exam. Okay, so this is for today's class. Any doubt which you have for either the Oracle certification or this naive Bayes, you can ask me right now. You have like 4 minutes left. If you don't want to speak, you can give in the chat also. Mm. 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 What happened? No one has any doubt? Seriously? Okay, looks like no one has any doubt. So if everyone is fine, just write yes in the text box. So I'll end the meeting. Can you forward the link in the group? I will forward the link in the group today only. Is Oracle helpful in machine learning or data science? The cloud, I can't exactly say it's gonna be useful in machine learning or data science, but being Oracle certified, being Oracle certified is really helpful, because when you go out, it's not like you only know machine learning. You cannot just stand in the market only with machine learning. You had to know some stuff. Like there are some basic stuff that you should know. Database, yes, database, Linux. These are the things that you should know all the time. Like it's a default thing that you CS programmer should know. So having a certification in Oracle database is gonna be useful for you anywhere you'll go. Is it specifically useful in machine learning? Maybe, because most of the time the data you'll get will be in a database. So how to get the data out of the database to use it in machine learning? Yeah, it will be helpful. Any other questions, or are we done? So no one has any doubt? I should end the meeting, say yes or whatever, because I can't even hear any one of you. Everyone is muted for some reason, and no one is even typing anything. Okay, Rachna is fine, no doubts. And I guess you're the only one who's listening only. And Vikas and Sarvesh, no doubt. Okay, even Sarvesh has no doubt. Even Vikas has no doubts. And other than that, I think everyone is not even there. Are you there? Is everyone there? Okay, even Yogita has no doubts. Not doubts. Okay, cool. So this is today's class. I'll upload the particular notebook also on Slack, and I'll find the link and I'll update the Oracle link in the group as soon as possible. Happy learning, guys. Bye bye.